Welcome. Tonight I'm coloring an image from Lockhart Stamp Company. The name of it is Spring Tulips. I'm coloring this with my Copic markers. This is a G40 that I'm laying in the base coat green with. Right now I just want to handle all of the tulip greenery and then those spaces between the flowers and the greenery, just filling that in. If I miss a few now, I'll make sure I get them before I finish. So this is just an initial base coat. You want to fill in those areas that really are not either leaves or tulips with something, because you don't want it to appear to be transparent there. So that's why I'm deepening in color there to try to give some thickness, some dimension, some weight to that whole bunch of tulips there. Tulips and I guess maybe, no, I guess they're all tulips. It's YG63 that I'm adding in now. And I'll add in just a touch of YG67 in some of the shadow areas as well. More YG67. I will go back and soften that up with the YG63. Okay, softening those up a bit. But I do need somehow to have a difference between the greens that are in the background and the greens that are on the leaves. This is a YG03 that I'm adding now to the leaves, warming those up a little bit more so they're a little more intense and a little warmer than that background greenery. I'll go back later and worry a little more about shadows on those. For right now, I just want to get my base color on them. There are the greens that I used. Let's work on those blossoms now. I think most of them I'll use some warm pinks on, but then I'll put in a few yellows and some cooler pinks too toward the very end, just for some variation in there. So I started with a base tone of R30 and a mid-tone of R43, with some shadow tones coming in a little later with R46. Some of the R46 I put in there, in fact most of it, I'll probably use palette blending or tip to tip with, because this is such a tiny image. It's about 2.5 inches altogether. Softening up some of that R43 with the R30. Kind of just deciding as I go which ones of these will be the palest pink tulips and which ones I'll leave for yellow or a little bit darker pink. Always use your lightest of any two values of marker to blend with. Again, base coating with R30, then going back with R43 to add a darker value in. And right there I was using some tip-to-tip blending with R46 on the tip of my R43. Now back to the R30 for blending. I keep going back to that one blossom because it still needs help, but if I get it overly wet the first time I'm working on it, I'll end up having a little color blow out there into the white of the paper, so I need to let it dry between times of working on it. I see an area there that I missed some green. I'll have to catch that later. Area right above that blossom I'm working on. Okay, there we go. I don't know if you take time to cap your markers when you're using 2 or 3 of them at a time, but I don't. I keep them in my left hand while I'm working with my right hand. If I walk away from my desk for 10 or 15 minutes, then I would put the caps on, but I'm not really worried about them drying out in the time it takes me to switch from one marker to another. You probably can't tell yet where my light source is, but I will go back and deepen one area more than another when I finish, and you'll notice on the can. But I can go ahead and tell you it's coming from the right, but not totally the right side. So it's a little bit toward the right and coming from the front. I'm using the tips here more than the edge of my brush tip, basically because this is such a small image. Again, it's probably about 2.5 inches high and maybe 2.25 inches across. On a bigger image, I would definitely be using the side of the brush more than just that little tip, but you pretty much have to use the tip in order to stay in the area on a really tiny image. I'm getting close to being finished with these pink blossoms. It needs a touch of a different color in there. And maybe just go back and deepen it a few tones. Needs contrast. And my shadow side is the left side, so wouldn't hurt to have a little more contrast over there. Fill in another green area that I missed earlier. I'm sure I'll find more yet. More YG03. Softened up with a G40. These are the pinks I used in addition to that G40 and YG03 that I mentioned. And now it's time to work on the can. I'm starting with some toner grays here. This is a T0. It's a colorless blender that I'm going to soften the edge of that T0 with, and I'll just layer value on there. Right now the colorless blender looks almost as dark as the T0, but it won't be after it dries. More T0 on the very right side, since my light's coming from kind of in front of, not a full side light. And here's some T2. Again, we just look at the can, we know it is a cylinder, so I'll shade it like a cylinder. Softening that T2 with the T0. I know I want some shadows around the leaves that come down and around the blossoms there as well.